I'm Jay Webb. Welcome to Inside the Interview, a place where I turn the tables on decision makers at some of the world's most innovative companies and speak with them a little bit about their experience, but then more importantly, how they go about evaluating candidates during the interview process, and then more specifically, which 3 core competencies they must see in every candidate to decide to not necessarily make them an offer, but at least to say, you know what, I'd like to move this person to the next round of interviews. So today, I'm happy to have on the founder of OpenERP, Fabien Pinckaers. OpenERP is an open source business applications company that serves thousands of customers. Fabien, welcome to Inside the Interview.
Yes, hello.
So let's start there. Tell me a little bit more about OpenERP and your role there.
So it's a company I started 6 years ago, and we deliver open source business applications from the CRM to the accounting. And we grew from 1 to 240 employees in a few years, in 6 or 7 years.
So obviously during that period of time, you've done quite a bit of hiring, or at least been part of a number of different interviews, correct?
Yeah.
So tell me about that. Tell me about, let's say for instance, if I'm a candidate and, I know that this is a hot company that I want to be a part of and I want to get involved in. What can I do to differentiate myself from the sea of other candidates that are trying to, get on your desk or get you to call them or respond to their resume? What do I need to do to differentiate myself?
So we are looking for people that can bring something to the company. So we are not looking for people that are perfect on everything. It's okay if they have weaknesses, but we look for people that can transform the company, so bringing something very special. So we look at the strengths of the people rather than trying to find people that do not have a weakness.
And if I'm sending you a resume, let's say for instance, maybe it's not you, maybe it's just somebody internally before it gets to you, but that's easy enough to be said and sort of articulated, but if I'm that person that really wants to get your attention, do you have any tips or anything that someone can do? Maybe it's a subject line or something that they could put in their email that will get your attention over somebody else's? Because again, I'm sure you're looking at plenty of applicants.
Yes, for sure. The smallest mails straight to the points are always the most efficient. Mm-hmm. I don't like long motivation letters or that kind of things. Mm-hmm. But for us, I have to say that we meet nearly, at least we analyze nearly everyone, because we send a survey with lots of questions to most of the candidates that contact us.
A survey?
Yes, with very technical question, because we used to not judge the people based on their CV, but on the questions are about their competencies.
Interesting. Okay. So it's a pre-screening before you actually even do the.
Yes, with lots of questions according to the role.
Can you give me a sense of what might be on that survey? Give me a couple of hints.
Depending on the profile. So the latest one I recruited was the Chief Marketing Officer. Mm-hmm. So it was a lot of questions about the marketing strategy that OpenERP should follow, some tips, some advice, some questions about how to boost the performance of the online advertising, how will we create a team of 10 people, what kind of profile he will recruit in his team, and that kind of things.
And is there a scoring system that you guys use?
No, it's manual. So based on the answer of the question, we judge if we accept to meet him or not.
Very interesting. Okay. So let's say, for instance, someone's done all that, right? They've gotten your attention. You looked at their CV. They've answered all of those questions satisfactorily, and now it's time to sit down with you. And again, you might not be the first person that they're meeting with in the organization. You might actually be the last person. But let's say, for instance, someone's finally been able to sit down with you. Help me understand 3 common mistakes before we get into some of the things that you're looking for. Give me 3 common mistakes that you see a lot of candidates make in person.
I'm probably a bit different than the others because I'm not looking for mistakes. I think that if you try to find people that have some mistakes, you finally have people that are average on everything. Because the people that are exceptionally good in something, they have other weaknesses. So for me, I don't care too much about the weakness or the mistake that a candidate can do. What I'm looking for is someone that is extremely good in something. So the biggest mistake you can do is to not show me what are your biggest strengths or what can you bring in to the company.
So let me ask you this then. Do you ask that question point blank directly and say, tell me what your biggest strengths are? Or, and if not, how can a candidate sort of bring that out during the interview?
The way I work is to pass all the questions he did in the past on our survey. Mm-hmm. And I screen everything with him and I challenge him on his answers. Mm-hmm. And based on this, I have a very good judgment on is he good in the way he think about his job position.
So help me understand that a little bit more. When you say you challenge I'll challenge you actually on that answer. When you say you challenge somebody on their answers, give me an example. I mean, we can even use that CMO as an example if you'd like.
Yeah, for the marketing, if you think his strategy is to focus on small companies, I challenge him on why the small companies and not the biggest ones. Mm-hmm. And so I ask a lot of questions in that direction, and I challenge on every aspect of the strategy.
And broadly, what are you looking for? Are you looking for some foundation of the way this person is thinking, or are there right answers and wrong answers? Give me a sense of what's going through your mind.
I'm usually looking for good ideas because the success of OpenERP is that we are different, not that we are better. So I'm looking for good ideas, someone that knows where he's going, and and also the focus. I don't like when people have action plans that goes in too much different direction. I like when people are really straight to the point in the action plan they propose.
Yep, makes sense. And describe to me how important cultural fit is in all that. You know, somebody has the right skills and the right background. Talk to me about the culture there at OpenERP and how that works into your decision-making process.
Yeah. The profile is one thing and the experience is one thing, but for me the profile and the experience is not the most important. The most important is competencies. And in order to fit in the culture of OpenERP, you have to be flexible, young in your mind. Of course, when we recruit C-level people, they are not young, but at least in their mind, because as OpenERP is very different from the other companies you can find in Belgium, we need people that can adapt themselves to the way we work. Mm-hmm. So it's very important. Yeah.
And what about, let's say, for instance, you mentioned C-level. Describe to me the difference between looking for a C-level person and an individual contributor. And I think more importantly, something that always comes up is executive level presence. If I ask you that if you tell me you're looking for executive level presence, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, something which is important for me is the ability to execute. So you can find a lot of experienced people, at least in the C-level, that know what to do, but we are looking for people that can execute the plan very efficiently. Mm-hmm. So they need some leadership, they need to be focused, not going into too much direction, mm-hmm. And so they have to be sure about what they do. Yeah.
But how can you vet that if you're having a half hour or an hour conversation with them as far as their ability to execute, or what are some of the exercises that you do?
I go into the details. So if his plan is to recruit 10 people, I will ask him how will he do to recruit these 10 people? Mm-hmm. What kind of questions, what kind of profile he will ask? And so I go into the details to know if his ability to understand what to put in place is correct.
Okay. And now, going back to what I was talking about earlier in terms of really breaking through the clutter, and obviously we know that there are a lot of people, and I'm sure you see them, a lot of applicants that are coming through. A lot of people over the last few years have hit some bumps in the road. A lot of people have been unemployed. If you're sitting across from someone, or let's say, for instance, I'm a candidate, and I was let go from my last company, and that comes out during the interview, how should I handle that as a candidate? And then what is your advice for someone to sort of get over that and get around that? And what are your thoughts on somebody that's been let go for, let's say, for instance, it was lack of performance?
Yeah. For us,
yes. Well, generally speaking, let's even say generally speaking.
Yeah, I think a good advice is to target efficiently where you want to work. One of the biggest problems is that we have people that are answering to some job position or job offers, but that doesn't fit because they are just answering to a lot of different job positions. So I think being focused on what you and exactly knowing what you want to do is quite a good advice, I think.
But how would you feel though, or how should someone handle it though, if you say, "Oh, I'm looking at your resume. It looks like you haven't been working for the last 6 months. Tell me why." And they said, "I was let go." Where are you looking for that person to go from there?
For me, it's not that important. That's not a part of the things I take a lot of attention to, because I focus more on his capabilities or his competencies rather than what's in the resume. The main thing I'm looking for in the resume is to have some references. So I ask the candidates to give me references of his past job. Some people I can call to verify if he did a good job or not. Okay.
So obviously you mentioned that you focus a lot on the positives and the competencies that each candidates bring to the table. So let's get right into that then. I always say at the beginning of every interview, what are the 3 core competencies that you must see in every candidate to decide to make them an offer or at the very least move them to the next round of interviews?
It's very dependent on the job because it's strongly related to the job position. So if we recruit a marketing guy, he has to be creative. He needs to organize a team and he has to be very process oriented. If we recruit developer, they just have to be very good in development. And when we recruit service, we need people that are that have a good relationship with customers. So we need people that can understand customer very quickly, that know the business and all the things.
How about if you were recruiting salespeople?
For salespeople, we are looking mostly for people that can call, even if they don't have to call the whole day. We notice that people that can easily call, take their phone, and call a lot in the days are people that are efficient because they are very active, looking for prospects and all the things. So one of the best exercise we do is to make them call a few prospects, and we see how they act, if they are afraid of phoning, if they are efficient in answering something they don't understand. So even during the interview, we make them phone a few prospects.
Very interesting. I'm assuming those prospects are either really, really cold or on the bottom of your list, right?
Yeah, they are cold, and in the prospect sometimes we have some of our employees. So we give him a list of 5 persons, including 2 which are our own employees.
Very interesting.
They play the role, yeah.
At what point during the interview process does that happen? Is that something at the end or at the beginning?
In order to recruit a salesperson at OpenERP, we need around 2 meetings. But before we have some emails with the surveys and some questions. So it's usually during the first meeting, and if we didn't have the time to do it during the first meeting, we do it in the second meeting, but usually it's in the first meeting.
Right, okay, all right. So let's say that you've come to the end of the interview with the candidate. You've vetted them for their core competencies in whatever position that you're looking for, and you've gone through it all. One of the challenges I feel like a lot of candidates have is they're not quite sure how to end an interview, like how to conclude the interview, whether it be with someone like yourself or someone in human resources. What advice do you have for someone to close an interview strongly so that they leave that lasting impression?
One good advice is to ask questions. To ask questions about the process of the recruitment process, or ask questions about what we think about him, or all the things. So don't let the interview finish with the interviewer have the latest point. You have to ask a few questions in order to understand what the interviewer has in mind. And this is a way to answer to all of the weaknesses we detected. So if you ask me what I think about the candidate or what I will tell the truth and ask and reply to him everything I don't like. So it's an opportunity for him to answer to these points. Not sure I'm very clear on this.
No, you are. So let me just ask you, if let's say, for instance, if somebody asked you, they said, so how well did I do? Or, based on everything you've heard so far, are you comfortable?
So I will, if someone asks me how well did he perform, I will answer very clearly so that I will check how he find arguments on all the weaknesses I detected. And it's very instructive for me to see how he answers to this.
That's interesting. So that's what I was going to say is that if you're giving somebody the opportunity to actually rebut and explain themselves a little bit more, if you feel as though there's a little bit of a weakness during the interview, are you open-minded then to, let's say, for instance, if you felt that somebody was a little light in a certain area, and they said, no, maybe you didn't understand. Let me tell you a little bit more about this aspect of my career. Are you open then to say, all right, you know what, you're right, I didn't necessarily realize that, let's bring you back in for a second.
Yeah. Okay. Of course, because recruiting is very difficult. I interviewed several hundreds of people and I can do a lot of mistakes. Yep. So if someone points me the mistake I did during the interview, I'm very open to discuss about him and to challenge him again on this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fantastic. Well, that's great. Mm-hmm. All this information has been great in terms of how to actually get somebody out of your inbox, so to speak, and have them receive that survey that you sent. Some of the things to stay away from and some of the things to focus on during the interview. We talked about the core competencies. Obviously it's all relevant depending on the person's position. We talked about if you're a salesperson, and that's primarily the types of folks that I recruit are salespeople. If you're a salesperson, salespeople should be prepared to go through the exercise of calling on some prospects that you have to show that they're not afraid to pick up the phone and show that they can handle a business conversation and perhaps some objections. So all this has been really, really helpful, and I appreciate it. So just a couple other questions, and we'll certainly get you out of here. Very simply, are you hiring? For which positions are you hiring? And how can folks go about applying?
Yeah, we are hiring in the US, in San Francisco, in Belgium, in Hong Kong, and we are recruiting mostly salespeople, developers, and consultants.
Okay. And how can folks go about applying?
Oh?
Yep, how can they go about applying? Do you have a particular...
They just send an email, they drop an email to jobs@openerp.com.
Jobs@openerp.com. Fantastic.
Yes.
All right. Well, good. Hopefully you'll get lots of applicants once we share and publish this. Fabien Pinckaers, founder and CEO of OpenERP. Thank you for coming on Inside the Interview. Thank you for watching my interview with Fabien Pinckaers, founder and CEO of OpenERP. To get more interviews like that and more tips and advice, please remember to sign up on this page. Thank you.